So hi everyone, this is Sumit from Labellerr. We are SaaS platform helping enterprises scaling up their AI ML operation. We help them at their various stage of their AI development cycle, like data preparation, data annotation, model building, model training, deployment, and in overall MLOps. So today we are going to talk with VirooPax, and VirooPax is VP of AI at WinWire. So welcome VirooPax.
Hi guys.
How are you? So yeah, means Virupaksha, directly jumping into the discussion. I just wanted to ask you that what WinWire do and what is your role there?
Sure. So WinWire is almost a 14 plus year company focused on cloud oriented solutions, cloud, Microsoft cloud solutions, and any kind of cloud solution which uses emerging technologies. We typically focus on healthcare, retail, and manufacturing, more on healthcare than anything else. We have recently won a lot of awards, from Microsoft, recognition from Microsoft, as well as from the rest of the industry for best in business innovative applications using AI, using data, modern data platforms. So we have a number of those accomplishments to show. But essentially, we are a very purpose-driven, innovation, purpose-driven company where we focus on innovative solutions which will help our customers gain competitive advantage and be the best at serving their customers. Right at the end of the story, we just look at the whole picture and try to help them out with really innovative solutions.
And your role generally involves around AI development. So how's that?
Yeah. Mostly AI, but as you know, right, AI came from data stream or data oriented work. So data and AI are both very closely linked together. And I have a number of years of experience in the industry with data from the past, with automation and AI. More recently, you can say in the last 5 to 6 years, I've spent more time with AI. But the whole concept of having expert systems has been there for many, many, many years, right? People have used expert systems for solving problems all over the world. And now we just call them AI, right? Because these are self-learning or machine learning oriented systems. They're supervised, unsupervised systems. There's a reinforced learning, but all of that is to help humans do a better job. And which means we need to use AI in a responsible way to ensure that, the community is served correctly.
Right. So I saw that you mentioned somewhere that you are working with vaccination and also with some uh, other use case, which is very interesting. So would you like to explain more how you are using AI to solve those kind of problems in health?
So before I answer that question fully, let me just start with defining the boundary of AI for me, right? Machine learning is a small part of overall AI. And, we are very, very far away from artificial general intelligence, AGI, as it is called. We're very far away from achieving that kind of intelligence, which is closer to human intelligence. Right now, we are focused on narrow AI. Narrow AI meaning solving problems which are specific to industries, specific to customers who have that problem. So just to give you an example, you talked about vaccination. Since COVID happened, we realized that it would be great to have some innovations in that space to help people get their vaccinations, right? And when you're giving vaccination, what's the role of AI in that, right? If you think about it, narrow AI approach will be, hey, I need to make sure that every one of us, whether it is Sumit or Puneet or Viru or others, we all should get vaccination at the right time, as efficiently as possible, without any hang-ups or waiting time, and with all the regular doses and everything, right? So intelligence needs to be applied both from an automation angle, the whole last mile of service and delivery, and also intelligence, AI can be applied in terms of demand forecasting, demand planning, in terms of making sure enough vaccines are available for the masses, right, or for the different age groups, and using technologies like NLP, chatbots to make the experience more smooth and easy for people so that they can sign up, they can get their vaccinations, and then they can come back again for follow-ups and any kind of advice that they need from the medical facilities. So for the providers, for the clinics, for any kind of hospitals and senior citizen community centers, we kind of think that vaccination is an important aspect. And for that, we have attempted to use kind of an AI methodology behind it to drive the whole flow, right, from end to end, from the time the vaccine arrives to storage, monitoring the temperature of that vaccine, making sure the vaccine is provided to the, in the right lots to people, and that they're getting the right set of vaccines at the right time, and allowing them to sign up and use chatbot kind of technologies to help them have a good experience as they go through this stressful procedure.
So, Ms., as you have worked on several use cases in several industries, so what is your biggest pain point or challenge when from starting to end, when you try to build something with the help of machine learning and all those new technologies?
Yeah, so there are many challenges to talk about, frankly, because as I mentioned before, people are still in the experimental phase of learning how to use AI. There are many people are not even aware about how to use it. Now, when you ask about what are the real life challenges here, we can think about it in three ways. Okay, the first part is data oriented, because many of the data scientists today are spending close to 70 to 80% of their time just in preparing the data, just in ingesting the data, just in improving the quality of data, just in making sure that the data is not garbage in, because then you'll get garbage out, right, of the AI system also. The recommendations, the predictions, everything will be bad if the training data is not sufficient or not good enough. So that's the one area which is all about data. So second area is about automation, because as we see, you need to commercialize, you need to deploy it into production, and you yourself have a great SaaS service for labeling, and Labellerr is the company doing that. You must have realized that doing these models, creating the solutions are one thing, but actually deploying it into production requires MLOps, right? Requires something more than DevOps, right? Being able to use MLOps techniques, whether it is feature stores or whether it's using any kind of tracking, versioning, control, which will allow you to do that. So that's a very important part, which is MLOps, which is the second area where people are struggling a little bit because not everybody automates it, right, smoothly. So working with Azure tools or working with any cloud tools, we have figured out our own way, and we also work very closely with Databricks. Databricks has MLflow. They have a feature store. They have many such kind of products or solutions you can call, which reduces the workload from an MLOps perspective. The third part I will focus more is on the human part of AI, human-centric AI. What I mean by that is we are entering a phase of green AI, frankly. What I mean by green AI is you've heard of green revolution, right? Everybody is trying to use electric cars and everybody is trying to think of sustainability and all that. Even in AI, the maturity of AI, if you look at the overall curve, we are still in the early stages, and we are kind of working with greenfield AI type of activities. We are not yet integrated it fully into our lives, right, as humans. So we have to keep a responsible AI kind of mentality in mind, that how do you use AI in the right way, in a fair way, in a way that is equal and applicable to all people in a very uniform and a right manner, right? You can call it. So responsible AI is a big initiative, and I'm actually associated with Stanford's Human Center of Design, right? Human Center AI, they call it, where you keep the human in the middle, right? You do not forget that we are humans and we are building solutions to augment and help humans achieve the goal. So it's not the super intelligence just to be left alone, right? Like that. It has to be fair and equal and applicable to everybody. So those are the three areas I would say important areas to consider. And they're challenges because the last one is a little bit more difficult than the others to satisfy. In every country, there are different policies. In every country, there are different laws. There are different ways of treating humans and humanity in general. So being fair to all of them is difficult. Being reliable, providing a reliable AI solution which applies equally to everybody is difficult. There's a lot of biases built into the system. So you must have heard of model drift, right? Or drift that happens due to data, right? Not being up to date. Now imagine if that bias is built in, then what kind of drift will it will cause in the human application of AI, right? And so automatic biases come in, and responsible AI becomes very critical to put some procedures in place to make sure that we as data scientists, we as AI engineers, we think about the holistic impact to the world and to humanity and make sure responsible AI is good.
Right, right. So, Ms. and also, Ms. You have mentioned 3 points, and the fourth point I would like to ask how you managing the people, your team, your developers, your engineers, and your data science team to collaborate and
Yeah.
make a process to keep doing this a successful process again and again. So, how's that challenge?
Yeah. So see, we are a very automation driven company. We do think about process, streamlined processes, automated processes, and people are an important part of that overall equation. People, process, and technology, right? And we obviously can learn all about technology we want and apply it. But in the end, it's the way you apply it, the process that you use. Is it automated? Is it batch? Is it manual? Those things need to be considered. From a people angle, the world has a huge shortage of data engineers, of data analysts, data scientists. There's a huge, I mean, everybody is impacted by that. Even if you're a Google, you're searching for talent. Even if you're a smaller size company, even if you're a mid-sized company, WinWire, right? All of us are impacted by lack of talent. But people who are there can be trained in this area, they can learn. So I always encourage a learning environment with some mentoring and coach, kind of behavior from senior experienced people who can help other people, and maintaining a community of that, a community of friends, of people who think alike, who want to help each other and collaborate to solve these problems. So when we go solve a problem for any type of customer or any kind of industry situation, we don't look at it just as me or I or you, right? We look at us working together collaboratively, cooperating with each other and helping each other out. So there's no one person who's going to have all the knowledge in the world. I cannot claim to be an AI expert. Okay, I'm still learning in the field. What I can tell you is that we need to learn from each other so that we don't waste time, making the same mistakes like others, right? So if Labellerr is doing something great, then we should learn from you as well as to how you have automated it and how you have made life easier for your people. The data scientists are obviously struggling because they're dependent on data engineers, and data engineers are struggling because they don't fully understand how AI engineers or data scientists will use the data, right? So they prepare the data, but they don't know, they can't talk about the quality of the data that well. And so we have to help each other out and collaborate a lot, have cross-functional teams who can support each other, have the right project management structure, the automation strategy, and then have the right architecture in mind so that you can use the right tools for the job to achieve the goals of the people, make people's life easier, right? That's
Right.
really difficult, especially in healthcare, which is a very regulated market. In the US, we have FDA, policies which are into place. So it's very difficult to apply any AI technique or any kind of new model without getting approvals from the government and from the federal agencies, right? So we have to keep that in mind and make sure that we think accordingly, train people accordingly, plan, prepare accordingly, and build the right architecture so that it's a zero trust architecture and ensures that there's no hacking or other things happening along that line.
Right, right. So you mentioning about the tool, there's a challenge with the tool. So you need to right set of tool to make your team collaborate with each other, and so that they can understand that the responsibility of each and every people who are involving in overall project development. So what is the biggest gap or urgent gap, if you can say that, if this would be provided in the market and in a very efficient manner? So what would that one gap that you like to mention?
Cap from a tool perspective, you mean?
Yes, software perspective, technology perspective, tool perspective.
Hmm. Okay, it's a good question. I mean, there are many tools out there, and one of the problems with having too many tools is that there is no standard, there's no gold standard, right? That everybody can follow. And because you have TensorFlows also, you have AWS SageMaker also, you have Azure ML Studio also, you have Databricks also, you have so many tools in those systems that people frequently get confused on the right approach and the right tool to use for the job. So I think my answer will be brief on this account, which is to say that where it is lacking is in the interoperability between the tools. You have multiple tools, but they need to work hand in glove with each other. A good example is what is happening in the Microsoft world, where Microsoft is working with GPT-3 now. GPT-3 is an open AI initiative for generative, transformer models, right? So if you think about it, to enable that, you need huge amounts of data. And do we have the right tools for collecting all the data in the world and bringing it together? Those tools are there, but it's not sufficient, right? If you think about the application of AI, and then you think about the endpoints that are necessary to be published so that people can consume it, again, you need to think about how does it all integrate together and work together. So we have had experiences with some customers who love, uh, GitHub and use Azure DevOps. They use all these tools for deploying the solution. But there are some new companies coming out now, GitLabs, which just went public today. In fact, this morning in the US, they went public. GitLabs is becoming more and more popular as it's able to work in a more lightweight fashion, along with a whole bunch of multi-cloud and hybrid cloud situations, right? When we are deploying this solution. So there are many tools, and Databricks is also adding a load of tools, query performance related tools, feature store tools, ML flow, SQL related, mechanisms in place. Snowflake has been adding a whole bunch of stuff. BigQuery has been adding. Everybody is adding their tools. The problem is with too many tools, you need more time to educate yourself, right? To learn how to use the tool effectively and apply it. So that is a definite challenge that we see in the world, that people have to keep learning. You cannot stop learning. You have to keep learning and trying out different tools, and no tool is going to be bug free, right? You will end up with some kind of issue or problem, and then you'll have to switch to some other tool. And that's the reason it's important not to be very locked into one approach. Keep an open mind and work with a bunch of different tools and see what makes sense for your need, right, and purpose, and then evolve your architecture accordingly later.
Right, right. So to conclude our discussion today, Ms., I would like to ask how you see the AI adoption in your industry or on overall industry uh, going forward 5 years.
5 years ahead. Okay,
Right.
that's a long time. And just like we say, internet time. In AI time also, it's far away. But I can tell you that one thing is clear, that people are trying to use the AI technologies for the right purpose, which is to help humans perform better, right? And that is narrow AI, which is applicable whether you're in a call center, in a contact center, whether you're in a hospital, giving care to your patients, or whether you're sitting in a retail store and trying to, serve drinks or food or other things to people, right? Or sell products. Everywhere you go, whether you're watching a movie, a recommendation engine, whether you go sitting in a car, you need driverless technology or any kind of AI technology which will keep learning. So in the next 5 years, if I had to give you a quick short answer, I would say the focus would be more in making sure that these are reliable and responsible AI systems that perform as per spec, designed well, for all the masses to use, right? Without any bias in that system. There are many things we can do beyond that. We can really go into AI, which is, like Elon Musk has been talking about the Android, the robot that he's been creating, just something that can help humans live better. So there are many such advances happening. The brain-computer interface, right? The brain-neural interface, neural link. All these concepts are coming. In the next 5 years, they'll become even more useful and applicable. But we need to do it with responsible AI in mind, so that we don't end up hurting people in the process or hurting humanity in the process, and we use it in the right way. So over the next 5 years, there'll be a lot of advances. Flying cars, you can call it, driverless tech, full drive, right? Driving technology, flying to the moon, flying to Mars, all those things will happen. But in the end, we are humans and we are prone to error, and we need to make sure that we need to pay extra attention with technologies like AI to make sure that we are doing the right thing for the right audiences, right? So in my own industry with healthcare, we care a lot about people's experience, right? Patient experience. We care about the nurses' experience, the doctors' experience. There a lot of doctors and nurses are really fighting day in and day out against COVID, and they're getting burnt out, right? So what can we do for them? What can we do in the next 3 to 5 years so that another COVID does not happen, so that we can help be ready for that next big, pandemic that comes across, right? So I think the AI will be applied in much more useful ways as we go along. And I'm a very optimistic and positive person. So I feel we should not be scared, and we should not worry about our jobs being lost to AI. We should instead think about how to use this technology in a responsible way so that everybody gets benefits from that.
Right, right. So thank you, Mr. VirooPax, for your time. You've been shared so many stories and give us lots of insights. So thank you. Hopefully, we'll talk again with some more advances in AI. Thank you for your time.
It was my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time.
Bye.